Hi, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Eye on the Eagles, your all-access pass to all things Avila Athletics. Happy February, Eagle Empire. I'm Sports Information Director Tim Hackett. We are live from Tanner's at Redbridge, just 5 minutes away from the Avila campus. Our first guest today, head softball coach Charlie Kennedy. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Hey, Tim. Thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure to have you on, especially since you guys are gearing up and ready to start off your season officially this week. So I wanted to make sure that we got you on the show, Coach, because you're getting ready to head down to Texas and kick off the 2024 softball season officially. How are you feeling just a few days away from your first games?
A lot of excitement in the air. Our kids have really worked hard, to go from stuck indoors with the cold temperatures throughout the month of January and then finally get outside within the last week and a half. They're tired of seeing each other. They're tired of hearing me. There's a lot of good things that we've got to put to use on the field and see what we're made of.
Something that I asked Coach Matt Carpenter, our baseball coach, last week, kind of along those lines. How different is it to be able to get outside? Because you guys play an outdoor sport, obviously, and we're stuck inside due to the weather for a large portion of January. But now you've been able to get out there recently, like you just said. What does that do? What physically do you guys get to do outside that you hadn't been able to before?
Well, if you're scrimmaging on Saturday inside the gym, the maybe gymnasium has a little bit of space, but it has an issue with a roof over your head.
Fair enough.
So when balls get hit off the ceiling and you're not sure if that would have been a double or a home run, then they have to live with whatever I called it to be, and that's not always fun for them. So, just being able
there's a C ring.
Yeah, not have to field ground balls off hardwood floors. Get out on our field and to have, the snow that we had for that 11-day time period that was frozen with 0-degree temperatures so it wouldn't melt, finally getting it off the field, getting outside, we've gotten a lot done just in the last week and a half. We're fortunate to have a deep pitching staff right now, so we've been able to see a lot of live at-bats at the end of practice daily. Today we even have a couple umpires coming, so we can actually get some more live at-bats with an umpire behind the plate. But, our kids have really – it's a lot to plan for what we're doing this year with 4 kids from Texas, 4 kids from California, and one of those being a senior in each class. So taking 2 trips in the same season has been a lot of fundraising. It's a lot of commitment and dedication on our kids. As well as our parents. So, none of that stuff's easy to do, but as it gets closer, it's exciting to, be able to enjoy the time and the fruit of our labor.
One of those trips is coming up this week. You're going down to Texas to face off against a couple of really strong teams to start off your season. Before we talk about those teams specifically, though, I want to talk a little bit about your team. When we had you on the show last semester, we were able to kind of close the book on last spring. It was an incredible season that you guys had, obviously, in your second year here, conference tournament champs and a bid to NAIA Nationals for the first time in a half dozen years for this program, and a win at Nationals as well to top it all off. But that's now all in the history books at this point, and you've got a lot of pieces back from that team. But I know how hard that you have worked to reshuffle the deck, to reinforce your roster. I feel like we've got representatives from 10 out of the 50 states, if not more, on this roster at this point. It's a crazy ratio. Your jet setting has really paid dividends, it feels like. So what can you tell us about how your team is built and what you're looking for from this set of players going into this season?
It's an exciting time for the team because they know that the depth is better than it's ever been.
Okay.
We've increased our speed, athleticism, and power and our versatility by position, which is something that I preach every time I go out recruiting. So, to have kids come in that could play multiple positions right now that could help us in one manner or another, and, late in the game to be able to manipulate the lineup like I like to do, and be able to say, well, we've pinch run for this one too many times. Now I can put this person this position, this one in that position. So, those things are benefits for us. The new kids that are coming in, they bring us some versatility with some power. Montana Stangel's an outstanding hitter, as well as she can pitch, play several positions, but she just batted 6th in the order at the World Series with Central Methodist, so she's coming as a graduate assistant, a graduate position in the library. So that's a huge resource for us. Both Kelly and Myra that are coming in. Kelly was with Midland at the World Series, but played at Trinidad State with Shauna Kasem, and she's versatile to catch and play the outfield. Myra is an outstanding catcher who can play some first base, swings a big bat. She came in from Iowa Central with community college experience, but she's from Wichita and knows Katie, Chelsea, and Kennedy. So we got a lot of different pieces that came in as extras. But in our younger players, there's one from Northern California, one from Southern California, one from Nampa, Idaho, They're kind of all over, like you said, and it's I'm fortunate that I've done a lot of things in my 25 years of coaching, but one was to build great relationships with coaches that got to know me on a personal basis. So leaving from Division I a couple years ago and getting to a 4-year NAI like this school in particular, bringing kids to Kansas City to go to Avila University is not a difficult task. It's a great fit, and it's an outstanding community. It's people that care about one another. It's a president that has a plan and a future for this campus, and he's proven that in the first year and a half of being in office. So we're just lucky to be in the right place, right time right now. But we do bring back a lot. We bring back 18 players from last year's team. A lot of them got a taste of what it looks like to go through the conference tournament and be successful, and then to get into the postseason nationals. And I'm telling you, the opening round regional for us down in Chickasha, Oklahoma, there was nothing easy about it.
No doubt.
A conference champion, Cotty College out of AMC, and then to have the USAO, who's been to the World Series and was the third place finisher year before, and then Mobile, who's the conference champion in their conference and coming off the runner-up from national championship. So I feel like we were in one of the best regionals in the country.
No argument from me.
And our kids last year knew that trip south to Florida was a huge team bonding and opportunity to see what it looks like from the biggest level, the highest stage. And we expect that's what Texas and California will be for us, as well as our tournament that we host in a couple weekends. So, we're looking forward to our upperclassmen right now giving us the leadership we need. I've told them every day at practice, there's nothing equal here. There's earned. And we have to earn our keep. And right now, we'd hoped to get in some preseason votes from coming off the postseason run, and we didn't. So we have to go out and establish ourselves as a team that's got a recognizable name. And until we do that, we've got an uphill battle.
How much do you think that you were able to kind of set that standard last season for what you want to accomplish with this program going forward? Because you were conference tournament champs, preseason number 3 in the KCAC this year. I know that means a lot to you for a lot of different reasons. So how much is that, lack of a preseason national recognition perhaps, or the third place spot in the KCAC? How much of that is fuel to the fire, or are we not even paying attention to that at this point?
No, it's certainly whiteboard material, because our kids know that we should be a team right now to be reckoned with, and until everybody else sees it, then it doesn't matter.
Sure.
It's just good food for conversation. But our kids want to have that recognition, and I think that's deserving. And in the meantime, we've got a little work to do to get that started again. So it's a great building block from a year ago. There are no givens about last year making this year that much more successful. And the one thing that definitely won't happen this year is teams won't take us lightly.
Right.
So, they're going to see us coming. It's going to be a matter of, can we do what we need to do to execute our game and hold teams accountable for what it is we say we do well. And I think that's the most important piece for us. I think every day at practice, our kids hear a consistency about what we say and what we do. And when we're executing well, we're really difficult to handle. And if we're not, if we're in a situation where we're not taking care of the ball, not communicating well, then there's some things that we can grow from.
One of the things that I know is important to you, and it reflects because you play into your depth more than I feel a lot of other softball coaches in our conference do, and maybe even some of our coaches here on our campus do. So can you speak to how much, reinforcing that roster with not only bodies but capable bodies? So my impression of your team, year one was obviously its own animal, but you got to kind of tap into that a little bit more last year in year two, because you had, a number of regulars, as any team might, players that are going to be in pretty much the same spot in the order, the same defensive position just about every game, assuming health and everything else. But you don't have a ton of those, and you were able to mix a lot of those and that's not because they aren't good. It's because you had the ability to kind of mix and match a lot of those pieces, change up defensive positions, use different pitchers in different situations that might be more advantageous. So can you speak to what that building process is like and how that manifests for you specifically going into this season?
Well, I can tell you, it starts with having a coaching staff, and have Mike McFarland, Alden Wildy, Mimi Maggard, and Bill Witherspoon over in St. Louis that comes to help us. We're able to really evaluate what we have and what buttons to push at the right time to try to grow it. So, it's my expectation when you come to play for me. I've never been a best 9 coach. I don't play the same lineup every day, day in, day out, and have kids that have been really working their tail off never get an opportunity. But at some point in the season, you do find that you're going to run into those teams that you have to play your strongest 9, and then the lineup gets a little bit set the closer you get towards the tail end of regular season conference and then conference tournament. But in the meantime, early in the year, man, I'm trying to see as many different things as I can see. I think when you grow it with putting those kids in great situations throughout the early part of the season and you get to the end of the year, they're more than capable of helping you more than hurting you in a crucial situation late in the year, and you just have to put them in tough situations early. So I'll give you an example. We opened the year last year at home against Evangel, and in a situation where I might have bunted late in the game, down a run, second and third, nobody out, I gave our 2-3-4 a chance to swing the bat. Ball never left the infield, lost the game by 1. We didn't do it that way most of the rest of the year because I normally will play a lot more small ball. And but I told our kids, I said, I'm going to give you more opportunities in the early part of the season to see what we're capable of before I get to a point where we're going to play it this way, because we need to read our hand better. So if you return as many kids as we do from the middle of the order to the end of the order, and to have a fire starter like Chelsea Kurtz at the top of the lineup, there's some good things ahead of us. What I think our pitching staff and our multiple depth in position players have to learn is to be ready when their number's called. Because truly, we always warm a pitcher that's the offset to the starting pitcher.
Sure.
And we always have a pitcher that's in mind by the 3rd, 4th, or 5th inning. It's not a baseball mentality for me. It's more a matter of, if I did my job well enough through the first 5 innings, 2 times through the order, but they've made some adjustments, or I've thrown too many pitches, I don't want them getting comfortable with my pitcher. If my pitcher gives me a chance at a win, we're going to try to bring an offset pitcher in and close the door with somebody else that makes them have to recalculate their methods to their madness. So it's the same thing about defense. I may have started a very much offensive lineup, but if we get late in the game in a close game and I put my best defense out there on the field, it's going to be because we're trying to close the door with getting 6 outs. So I think all those things give us a better chance. And then the other thing about it, I think coaches that play that best 9 every game, they're not only not seeing it, but at some point when an injury happens and someone goes down, you're not prepared because that kid wasn't thrown into the fire early enough to have that mental toughness, that thickness of skin. So I believe that could happen at any point in time. I mean, God forbid, we had a great season. We had minimal injuries. We hope to do that again because, on our coaching staff, you have Coach Brian Chelik, who does an outstanding job with our kids to keep them as core, solid, and healthy as can be. And then, proper exercise, proper eating habits. Also, so I'm cooking for my kids as often as I can, but I'm always cooking them something healthy for them to eat so they can get used to eating habits. We don't do a whole lot of going to fast food after games and that. We try to eat healthy. So, I just think we're fortunate where we are right now with the depth we have. We've got 29 kids. They will all travel to Texas, and they'll all travel to California. We fundraise that together as a team. They'll have to fight their tails off to be on certain trips after that, or to be dressing on game day. But we built a schedule so that the following Tuesday, after a 4-game weekend set where maybe you didn't touch the field as much and didn't have the opportunity that you would have liked to have had, you can come back on Tuesday and show me what you're capable, because I'm coaching third in those games also, whether they're developmental or whatever you call them. So I think that's really helped us last year, was having those extra games where our kids struggled on the weekend but came back weekday, got some confidence, got some discipline in pitch selection, and knew what they were looking for, and they came right back and they were able to help us in bigger games. So, all those things are benefits of, Sean Sumi doing a great job talking to the administration and talking about how we develop our teams to have that kind of depth and have kids come into a program like this where we can grow them with 9 seniors leaving, and to have 9 sophomores right now, 9 freshmen. Next year is 1 senior and a bunch of freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. So we expect our seniors this year to accept the fact that they won't play every inning of every game, because I need to grow the younger ones under them.
Sure.
But by the time we get to the point where we have to play, we certainly know who we can put out there as a strong front 9.
You mentioned players have to be ready when their number's called. You imagine a lot of those numbers might get called this weekend in Texas just because it's the first weekend of the series first series of the season, and you know that you've got to start building that depth right now before it starts getting into crunch time against the best teams in the conference coming up.
Well, I mean, who better to play them against?
Right.
Our Lady of the Lake goes 51-8 last year, and 4 of their losses were one at the conference tournament, 2 in the opening round and 2 at the postseason. Or one in the opening round and 2 at the World Series. So they took 4 losses in the last 2 weeks of the season. Otherwise, they were
4 the rest of the
50
way.
and 4.
Yeah.
Getting a chance to test our mettle against them.
It's one of the best teams you'll see all year.
Yeah. They were ranked 2 in the country most of the year last year, and they bring back a lot of their lineup, including a first-team All-American pitcher. So they're going to be very formidable. Texas A&M San Antonio beat them 8-1 in the conference tournament. After Our Lady of the Lake went 28-0 regular season conference, they get a win against them in the conference tournament before Our Lady of the Lake took care of them out of the losers bracket 2 games straight on the last day of it. So I think both teams are going to be a lot for us to handle. They're only playing us on those days. We're playing a doubleheader each day.
Okay, I see.
So they have to play one game, us. They'll load their lineup. Both of them are going to have played before they see us. Right now, Central Methodist went down there and got beat 5-4, and Missouri Baptist got beat 2-0 by Our Lady of the Lake. So both of them competed in the games against them. So 2 games under their belt. They play a 3-game set starting tomorrow against Central Washington, a D2 in town.
Central Washington is going to. Okay.
Yeah. And those 2 coaches know each other extremely well. And then San Antonio gets to play their first games Wednesday at home against Shriner. So they're going to get to see somebody also before they see us Friday. So, I don't care about that. Really, we're not going down there. It's not about wins and losses. It's going down there to play great competition, build some mental toughness, put our kids in great situations to see them fail and succeed, because that's how you grow. The failure we had in Florida helped us grow. Didn't taste good at times, to get your head pounded in twice by Coastal Georgia. We hope to compete, so it's a measurable outcome no matter what happens. We want to get wins while we're there, because that's what we're there for. But when you go play great teams, it's not always about the win. What matters most right now in the eyes of those coaches that are out there as raters is putting wins up against teams that are nationally rated. So we do need to go get wins against some of these teams that we're playing. That's why you build a strength schedule. And I think that's something that we're capable of doing.
And I know this is something you and I have talked about both on air and off air already, but I know that this is something that a lot of our coaches here at Avila share. This mindset is something that a lot of you guys share. And you've heard about it a lot if you've watched episodes of this show in the past. That mindset of we're going to go play good teams, or even really good teams that we might not be favored against, knowing that we could well lose, and that's okay because we're playing these teams. We're going to go give it our best shot. It's not like we're going there, expecting to lose, by 20. We're just going to roll over. Not by that at all. You're going out there expecting to compete, expecting to learn, expecting to grow, understanding that we may lose, but knowing that we're playing this really good team, so that once you get back in April and you're playing either average teams in the KCAC like a Bethany, Oklahoma Wesleyan, good teams in the KCAC like a Friends or an Ottawa, whatever, you've already seen really, really good competition, so you should be ready and equipped depth-wise, experience-wise, mentality, whatever else you want to say, once you get into those teams again, once you get into those games against lesser teams, if we're being honest, compared to Our Lady of the Lake, but those games that matter more. So it's a nice little way to get prepared for the stuff that matters even more than these do.
The thing that matters most in the KCAC is that we've increased our depth each year as far as the talent and the strength of teams. Evangel coming in strengthens the softball conference.
No doubt.
And they are automatically picked preseason 5th, so they're in the mix. There's some teams that don't get mentioned enough that have quality programs. McPherson goes and beats Friends in the first round of the conference tournament last year as a 7 seed, just like we did to Oklahoma Wesleyan the year before as a 7 seed. So you can't take anybody lightly on a given day in this conference. Difference is you do know who you got to go out there and gain a split with today because of who they are already and who you need to get a sweep against if you want to win the regular season. It's not our goal to go play for a conference tournament championship every year. It's our goal to win a regular season championship and have an automatic bid in your hand. Uniquely enough this year for the NAI, they've advanced the field from 40 teams to 48. So there's going to be 16 at large this year taken from across the country after automatic bids have been selected.
Sure.
And it's our goal right now as a KCAC conference to have an at-large team taken. We need 3 teams this year. So it's going to mean so much to have a third team voted upon, getting votes outside top 25, possibly getting 2 teams within the top 25. We need to get wins. I don't care who it is that has KCA written on their shirt. But I think that's why you play these teams. To build the tournament I'm hosting in 2 weekends, it's a great tournament. Lindsay Derry helped me with Park and Sam White over at at Baker, the three of us put that together last year, 12 teams in it. This year there's 17 teams in it. Well, I pulled 5 KCAC and 5 Heart of America to go with 3 from this conference, 2 from that conference, 1 from that conference, purposely so our strength of schedule got better for the KCAC with those that are in it, because they need to play good teams. So I think that's really what's in front of us right now, is to go out there and establish ourselves as a conference to be reckoned with versus the conference not many people know much about, and they don't think much about us.
That's what I was going to bring up next, because you mentioned the expanded NAIA tournament field. There's a good chance we're seeing 2, maybe even 3 NAIA tournament teams this weekend, and I'm sure we will be seeing a lot of future NAIA tournament teams at that event next weekend here in Kansas City. 17 total teams, including yourself, co-run with Park and Baker to an extent. That's just about 40 minutes away from campus here in South KC.
I mentioned Mid-America Nazarene's also doing a great job helping us with that as well, because truly it takes a lot of hands on deck to be able to handle live stats going on at each backstop.
They'll be helping us with that for sure.
4 games in action, and the athletic training that's needed for that. But when you do this, we can travel to Texas and California and Wichita because we're staying at home a couple weekends.
Sure.
To have our home opener the 24th against Park allows us not to spend as much money. So I've told all those coaches, I said, hey, some of you just have to get dressed and come to the field. And it's a big weekend at our place versus always having to travel somewhere to play those preseason weekend tournaments, and the cost gets to be extremely big. So yeah, we're hoping to grow that as well. But to bring softball to the community here, not enough kids in this area that play such a high level select know much about NAI. They know more about D1, D2. We got 17 teams coming here, some of the best of the best, 7 that made nationals, 3 that went to the World Series. That's a great thing for the kids in this area to see. NAI is just as good a product as anything out there, and some of the NAI could beat some of those other D2s and D1s you're looking at.
No question about it. We're looking forward to that next weekend here in the Kansas City area. 17 NAIA schools, including Avila, over the course of that following weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday here in the Kansas City area. But first, Avila softball kicks off the 2024 season in San Antonio against Texas A&M San Antonio and Our Lady of the Lake. That starts off this Friday, starting off the 2024 season. You can find details on how to watch and follow along on our website, avilaathletics.com, and of course we'll have coverage from all of those games on our social media channels. That is head softball coach Charlie Kennedy. Good luck this season. Good luck this weekend as you start your season off strong, Coach.
Tim, I appreciate you having us on. A shout out to all of our Eagle fans that are looking forward to seeing us. I want to be thankful of Dr. Berkey and his wife, because they really would have liked to have made the trip, but he told me something's popped up, so we'll see them within a couple of weeks when his wife throws out the first pitch for the home opener on the 24th. But for the upcoming camp, we have Sunday, February the 25th, the day after our home opener. Love to see some more fans of Eagle softball out there watching us. And, thank you to Sean Sumi and Alexander Adams and everybody else in administration to help us go about our business. But, Tim, we can't do this without guys like you, so thanks so much to Tim Hackett.
Thank you. We're looking forward to softball season this year. It was a ton of fun being a part of the ride. I got to go, to the NAI, the opening round in Oklahoma. My first experience really doing something like that. That was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to maybe another trip just like that this year. Starts off this weekend in Texas. Season opens on Friday against Our Lady of the Lake and Texas A&M San Antonio. More details on that still to come. That's head softball coach Charlie Kennedy. This is Eye on the Eagles. We'll be right back with our next coach right after this. Welcome back to this episode of Eye on the Eagles. Sports Information Director Tim Hackett, now joined by head women's wrestling coach Zach Revier. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Thanks for having me, as always.
And welcome home. I know it was an eventful weekend, a lot of travel for you guys last week. A lot of travel for you guys over the last couple of weeks. In fact, we got a lot to break down for what's been happening recently over the last couple of weeks for Avila women's wrestling. And the short answer is a lot. But that's kind of how it goes this time of year, right? A couple of weeks out from the conference tournament. There's always a lot of stuff to get through, a lot of important matches and a lot of good competition that you guys have seen over the last couple of weeks.
Yes, sir. Busy time of the year, but that's what we love in this sport, getting after it.
Starting off a couple of weeks ago, because it's been a little bit since we got to talk to you, the KCAC GPAC duels, kind of a unique setup where every school from the extended conference that is women's wrestling that we have, it's all the KCAC schools with all the GPAC schools that is combined into form one giant women's wrestling conglomerate. So everybody was there in York a couple of weekends ago, and you guys faced off against 5 different pseudo-conference opponents and a full day of action there. Ultimately got 2 team wins. So what do you remember from that weekend? What were some of the highlights you want to hit?
Yeah, it was a pretty good weekend for us as a team. We went 2-3 ultimately on the day. One of those losses was a tie, first tie in program history.
Yeah.
So we kind of learned what the criteria was out there. But yeah, pretty good out there. Like you said, we don't always get to see the opportunity to see all those teams. Jamestown is pretty far away, so it was our first time seeing them this year, which is always good. They've got some tough girls that, again, not a lot of us get the opportunity to see. So nice to see them. But yeah, good showing from the girls out there. We did lose some of them, but we were competing in all of them. And kind of talking to you a little bit before this year, that's kind of where our conference is right now. Pretty much any duel could be a coin flip depending on who's healthy and who shows up to wrestle that day, and that showed it. And we were able to get a lot of matches out there. Kind of get. Being that it was our first competition of this semester, we were supposed to go out to York the week before that as well for another dual tournament and an open. Those both got canceled due to weather. So when we were out there at the crossover duels, my goal was to get as many matches for as many people as possible. So we. Most of the girls got opportunity to compete out there, which is nice. Which that's kind of one of our strengths is our depth, able to pick and choose where we wrestle people. So that certainly helped us out there. But yeah, it was a good showing. We won 2 in our first one, so that put us in the silver pool. We did lose those 2, but again, one of those that we dropped was pretty even.
No
You
kidding.
can't get much more even than that. We lost on the. I believe it was a 6th or 7th criteria. Individual match points ended up 23-20 at that point. Everything else was even.
Individual match points. So is how many points were actually scored by everybody in each of the 10 bouts in total.
Yep.
So that even counts like before we had to actually go in and see how many points were scored before a pin was recorded.
Correct.
Which we never have to do in any other situation.
Correct. So that was good. We, you and I kind of talked about that at the beginning of the year, just kind of. For conversation at that point,
kidding.
but it came to fruition. So I'm glad we talked about that. So we kind of had an understanding with that. But from that we learned we need to score more points.
I guess so.
And we've been working on that since then, and it's a good eye opener for all of us at that point.
I loved the idea of that event, and I know that maybe it was not as fun in practice since you guys had to go out there and had to compete in all those matches. But since this conference. We're going to call it that because that's what we're going with for this year. It's so different from any other sport because we've got all of these squads from the GPAC that are officially part of women's wrestling in this little conglomerate. And like you said, we never get to see them really in any other sport because they're close but not all that close geographically. But since they are officially part of this conference, it is a direct way for you guys to compete against these teams. And not only is it a way to see some novelty compared to most of our other sports, those schools are good in your sport. So, Midland and Jamestown, just to name 2, and there's Hastings is in there, 1 or 2 other schools that are nationally ranked or right on the cusp of that top 20. The KCAC proper has Ottawa and St. Mary, and then a couple other schools that are on the cusp like yourselves. But those schools that we just mentioned are in there, and they've been nationally ranked all year. So not only is it cool to see somebody that we've never seen before, like you might see in a given open that's coming from a random school or a Division II school or whatever. These are really good NAIA schools, and that's an opportunity for you guys to compete against some of the best, which is, I'm sure, exactly your mindset going into the conference tournament in a couple of weeks and the national tournament after that.
Yeah, absolutely, and that it was kind of nice that it worked out that way, being our first competition of the semester. Like I were mentioning earlier, kind of shows us where we were with the conference at that given point. But since then, our competition's been even tougher and stronger moving forward. So when we are back at the conference tournament here in a couple of weeks, I think we should be well seasoned and well tested up until that point.
Following weekend after that, short trip for you guys, which I know was a nice change of pace compared to going out to York, I guess. But short trip up to Leavenworth to St. Mary for the Spire Classic, and I think kind of my theme for your team this semester is you've been able to get a lot of different athletes in there. You've got the mix, and right now you've got 3 athletes that are ranked in their weight classes, which is awesome, but you've also been able to get a lot of quote-unquote other athletes out there, maybe even compared to what we saw in the first semester. So that was kind of my takeaway from that trip to St. Mary, but also, like you and I have talked about before, I mean, a resurgent effort from Bianca Cook to kind of headline the efforts out there. Not the only big takeaway there, obviously, but for me, you got to see a lot of athletes compete. A number of athletes had success. A number of athletes won matches, which is always good. And then obviously the performance that B had, I think, really is the headline act.
Yeah, it was a great outing for us again. A lot of it's clicking at the right time for a lot of girls. Julia Datis, she stepped up her first honestly her first kind of real competition of her college career, and she placed fourth at the tournament. So she's been working a long time to get the opportunity to step on the mat. So she got that not only did she get that opportunity, she had some success with it too. So that should be good moving forward. And yeah, same thing. I think Callie got her first win out there, so that was good for her. But yeah, Bianca wrestled really well. Sarah had some real good wins out there. So really relevant matches out there. But yeah, good clicking at the right time. And ultimately, I think it's a contest that we're pretty healthy. We're pretty healthy right now, so we got a lot of good training partners in the room. But at any given time, anyone can be ready to step up and go. And that's kind of been the model, and they've been really running with that. So it's been nice on my end as a coach to have at any given point 18 to 20 girls ready to step up and step up in the lineup, whether it's for an open or for a dual match as well.
And I feel like we kind of got to see that bear out this past week, because a lot of the different athletes that we've now seen compete in some of the opens, or some of the weekend events, I should say, so far this semester, then worked themselves into that dual lineup that we saw over the course of this past week with 2 different duels. I mean, Julia is the prime example. We saw her in there a couple of times now this past week. I'm not saying that she wouldn't have done that. She wouldn't have been in those duels had she not done as well as she did in that open over the previous weekend. Only you could say that, but that to me looked like a direct pathway. We haven't seen her in a ton of duels over the years. Part of that is she dealt with injury or whatever else, but she had a great weekend. You can throw her right there into the dual lineup and feel confident that she can perform for you there. Is kind of my takeaway, and I'm sure that she's not the only athlete that is a good example of that situation as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and it goes both ways. Like we were at Spire, we were able to sit some of our girls that needed a little bit of extra time, and same thing with the duels, able to sit them when it's appropriate. And we've been kind of running on that model all year, and it's been working so far for us. So we're going to continue with that. But yeah, it's having that at our disposal is very helpful, definitely.
It's something that you and I talked about is, you're so deep, so thick at some weights that we were expecting to see Markela at the Spire Classic. We didn't, but then there was 4 other athletes in her weight class instead, which is just kind of crazy to me because here we go. We've got plenty of other people that can go out there and compete and win matches and compete in other matches as well. So, and that's just one weight class. So there's plenty of other examples up and down the lineup of all right, we're going to go out there and throw out whoever we can because we've got that personnel at this point, and that's something that you have really been able to hang your hat on this year. I know that's something that has meant a lot to you as kind of a way to stand out from a lot of other programs. It's just the number of athletes that you have, but more than that, it's not there. Like I just used this expression with Coach Kennedy a minute ago. It's not just the fact that we got bodies on the team; these are capable bodies, more or less, top to bottom as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of our advantages, having the numbers. Another advantage of ours is we're young, so we got plenty of opportunities to grow and learn from these, win, lose, or draw. It's all a learning lesson and for the future. But yeah, so those are 2 great advantages that we have, and it's been working for us. So definitely going to continue to work that way.
Full week for you guys this past week. I know, like we said right when we started with you, I know there's a lot of travel involved, a lot of moving pieces, but started off last Wednesday. I always like these events because again, no offense intended, but it feels like, quote unquote how other sports work. Women's and men's doubleheader at Friends, which is what we're going to do in basketball in a couple of weeks as well, and how soccer works and all this stuff too. So it's just a fun event for me to watch because this is how it normally goes for us covering other sports, and it's fun because I like the dual setting personally. I think it's a fun event, and you guys put on a pretty good show in that event as well. So that was fun.
Yeah, and I agree. The last we were out at Wichita on Wednesday for the Duel for Friends. A great atmosphere, great environment out there, and same thing on Friday up in. Quick turnaround, headed up to Des Moines to face the number 4 team in the country. But both venues both places had great support with their fans. Out at Friends, it was pretty loud and fun, a good environment. And then the girls, they stepped up to the challenge at that point. It could have easily, melted due to the lights, the sound, whatever it is, but they thrived in that environment. Our men's team was out there supporting us, being as loud as they could, being well outnumbered in the crowd. But again, the girls really ate that up, and they performed really well. And same thing there. We were able to kind of pick and choose what matchups we had. We had a couple girls with us that didn't step out on the mat. Not quite 100%. So the other girls whose name was called, they did enough at that point that we were able to keep them off the mat and keep them healthy for when it really matters. So again, kind of contest to what we're doing, how healthy we are. But yeah, it was great turnout out there. We only dropped one real match, and that was bumping up B a weight class to wrestle the number 4 girl in the country. Right. So good strong challenge for her, but she took that with a grain of salt, and she thrives in those situations. So she wrestled a cup. She wrestled her the week before as well, closed the gap a little bit on her, and that's all we're asking for. Especially in a match like that, bumping up a weight class against one of the best girls in the country.
She's good.
Yes. So we're just expecting to compete at that time and get a little bit closer every time, and she did that. And so with that, we kind of did the same thing with her on Friday. This time it was the number 3 girl in the country.
Yeah.
So same thing. Going into those 2 specific matches, we told her the plan. We let her know what was going on, and she understood the assignment, and she was ready for it. So but again, she's going to be battle tested now when it really matters. So that should be helpful in the long term.
Pop culture reference, nicely done. Grandview, I mean, this is something that we've talked to you about on this show. We've talked with men's wrestling coach Eric Mateo about this as well. I mean, you guys have seen a number of really good programs, really good teams. Again, ignoring the open settings for a little while, just in dual events in year 3. Now, over the first 3 years of this program, Grandview obviously is at the top of that list in both men's and women's wrestling. They're an excellent program, a lot of excellent athletes. And so what was it like to prepare for that and then to compete against an elite program like that and get a couple of wins out of the deal?
Yeah, I think, ultimately we took that duel because it was their senior night and no one else wanted to wrestle them, so we volunteered. We said we would do it. We were going to be up there anyway, so why not, and we did that because we want to see where we are. We talked about the conference tournament a little bit ago. That's great and everything, but we're not here to win the conference. We're here to win in the country, be number 1 in the nation. So it's important to test ourselves with competition like that. And ultimately we fared pretty well. We won 25% of those contested matchups. All but one of the contested matchups were against nationally ranked girls. So again,
right.
Good seasoned opponents to see where we're at, and we still got, just like I told the girls this after this weekend, we've got a little bit over a month of training left in front of us, so we've got time to correct those little mistakes that we did make. But again, I think it's important to face good quality competition. Because again, that's where we want to be, right? So where are we at, and what do we need to do to close that gap? And we're certainly trending in the right direction. Just need a little more experience underneath us, and a couple more. Just a little bit more depth. That's been a revolving story on this show so far. Grandview's got even more girls than we do. So we're trending in the right direction. We'll be there soon. But yeah, and that again, the girls are ready to compete. They didn't really care who they were wrestling, and it kind of came into fruition at the last match of the night. At heavyweight, Shannon Briggs wrestled, she was ranked number 19 at the time, wrestled number 3 in the country. Was kind of a lineup change from what we were expected. We were expected to originally see the girl who was ranked about 14 prior to being removed from her team's top 12, but we took the 3 and actually. Coaching staff and Shannon, we all wanted that match anyway, so we got it, and she was able to pull it off and beat the number 3 girl in the country. So again, we're right there, and just right there, and that should be good motivation move going into the end of the year. And I know the girls are excited for that match. And again, they did very well. They did very well in that environment. It was their senior night. They had some extracurricular stuff going on. They were focused on their matches, and that's what we're working for. And that's, again, they showed that they're ready for it. Again, we just got to get more experience, more mat time, and we'll be there soon. We'll be there real soon.
I don't imagine that there are many people out there that know the national women's wrestling landscape better than you. And at this point in the year, I don't know much about the technical side, as you already know, but pretty good with names and that type of stuff. So at this point in the year, I've got a pretty good idea of who some of the best athletes in there. And again, just on paper, you might, differ as to, who's better or worse, in given, aspects of the sport, technique-wise and everything else. But, I read the rankings all the time, and I've got a pretty good idea at this point of who's the names to watch, right? And just going back and looking at some of the results from Saturday, the Grandview Open, it's a who's who. So, there are a ton of really, really good athletes in that in that leaderboard, and makes for a tough outing for just about anybody, including the rest of them, when you've got to face a gauntlet. Just about everybody that you face is in the national rankings or has been in the national rankings at some point this year or maybe in previous years. So what is that type of event like, where that you've seen plenty of great competition already? Obviously, we just talked about there's loads of good athletes in the KCACG pack that you had to see a couple of weeks ago. But again, just about everybody that our athletes faced at the Grandview Open on Saturday are some of the best, and that's got to be a different approach. Got to be something. It's kind of a different reality that's going to set in.
Yeah, absolutely. And we like you said, we've seen tough competition all year, but just not that consistent, that stacked on top of each other.
Right.
But again, that's all intentional, right? A lot of our girls had wrestled 3-4 ranked matches in a 2-day span. Well, guess what? Guess what the national tournament is? 2-day span wrestle nationally ranked girls. So, again, we got about a month or so to work on what we need to work on from what we learned over this past weekend. But we had opportunity to wrestle most of our girls probably wrestle girls that are getting at being an All-American this year, and that's where we want to be. So to see them early, it's like I told them, I'd rather drop them now. We can get them in March, so we're not worried about the matches. Again, we're going to go watch the film and study and analyze those and correct our mistakes from there and get a little bit better. And hopefully, again, we're going to be a little more seasoned, a little more battle tested now from this tournament. But yeah, that's what it takes to be successful. We can't not wrestle that type of competition and expect good things to happen come to the national tournament. We want to see those girls throughout the year and start beating them throughout the year so we can beat them at the national tournament.
That's
as well.
something that really clicked to me talking with you guys over the last couple of years. I'm not sure when it really first set into me, but I think it's really obvious when you start to set it out like this. But it's not something that you think about when you're coming from the team sport background, where a team that is maybe not as good on paper can get hot down the stretch and sneak into a team competition. I'm thinking, we just heard from our head softball coach, Charlie Kennedy, before this. Our softball team wasn't nationally ranked going into the national tournament last year, but they were a very informed team, playing extremely well, playing together, all that stuff. Won a bunch of games down the stretch to get into the national tournament and won a game there. So that's what happens in a team setting. But in an individual setting, you're expecting that once you get into the national tournament, which is obviously all individual based, everybody's representing their schools, right? But it's an all individual competition. You're expecting that just about, and Coach Mateo said this on this show before, just about everybody at that event are the real deal. And to kind of use his expression, you don't expect there are many or any scrubs at that level, because these are all probably some of the best wrestlers in the country, you would assume, because that's what you want in a national tournament. So maybe there's one or two down the line that sneak in, if you will, or win their conference tournament that you don't expect them to, and now here they are. But those are few and far between. And so seeing all of these really good athletes, and like you said, seeing them back to back in a lot of opportunities, that's what you can expect as a wrestler going into a national tournament, because just about all of those athletes are going to be ranked or on the cusp at that point as well, because that's what it should be.
Absolutely. And an important thing, especially come to the national tournament, a lot of times, especially those higher level girls, it's what happens after a loss, right? So if you haven't experienced that either, you could lose it and check out of the tournament from a loss against a good opponent. Again, we've seen that, we've faced that, and it's what happens after that. So again, that's just another part of the test that we kind of pushed this weekend, and I think the girls responded pretty well to that. So I think good things will be coming soon.
And I know that is coming up soon for you as well. A national tournament in a couple of weeks, conference tournament before that. But I know, the tunnel is narrowing for you, right? Getting close to the end. But before that, it's another big competition this weekend, your last regular season, if you will, event of the year before the conference tournament later in February. The Baker Duels, which is kind of a callback to the Eagle Duels that we hosted in December 2 months ago at this point, hard to believe. So what can you tell us about what you're expecting this weekend in Baldwin City?
Yeah, so it should be another good show. Wrestling 3 tough teams out there, starting with Baker. They're currently ranked number 17 in the country. We saw them at our tournament. We got their number that time, so we're giving them the opportunity to see how it goes this time. After that, we'll have the number 10 and the number 11, William Penn in Oklahoma City. So a lot of good, 3 good teams, but a lot of good individual matchups as well. And again, just more tests, more opportunities for our girls to not only wrestle good girls, but start competing against them and getting some wins over these girls as well. And then after that, a couple weeks off, and then this conference. But yeah, right now, all the focus is on Baker, and then I think William Penn's the second one, and then Oklahoma City. So that's where our focus is right now. And again, the girls know that it's going to be a good, hard, battle-tested matchups, all 101 all the way to 191, and I believe they're ready for that.
That's coming up this Saturday, the Baker Duels in Baldwin City. You can find details on how to watch and follow that. Once that information is public, we'll have all that for you on our website, avilaathletics.com, and of course we'll have some coverage of that on our social media channel as the day goes on. A lot of activity this weekend. Big surprise, a lot going on here as we get into February. Softball season opener in Texas. Baseball has its next home series against Dakota State. That's on Friday and Saturday. Basketball is at York on Wednesday, and then home again against Evangel on Saturday. Wrestling is in action this weekend as well. Women's bowling goes to Indianapolis for their final regular season event. A lot coming up this weekend across Avila Athletics, and we've got all of that covered for you across our social media channels and avilaathletics.com. You'd think I'd be able to say that URL at this point. I've said it 30 times a week for the last however many weeks. That is head women's wrestling coach Zach Revier. Good luck this weekend. I know that the light you're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel at this point.
It's right around the corner for us, yes, sir.
Getting close to conference tournament time, the most exciting time of the year. We're really looking forward to that because of how well they went for both of our wrestling teams last year. Looking forward to being part of that this year. That's coming up later on this February. Up next for women's wrestling, the Baker Duels this Saturday. For all of us here at Avila Athletics, thank you to everybody at Tanner's and Redbridge for hosting us this year. We'll see you next week on Eye on the Eagles. For executive producer Darian Miner, I've been Tim Hackett. We'll see you at 11:30 next Monday right here at Tanner's. You've been watching Eye on the Eagles. We'll see you next time. Until then, so long.